when God has been good to me, I know that that's a potential time of weakness or temptation. When I feel a great victory or a great deliverance, that's when it's easy to forget the Lord. And then we know what happens. We slide, we crash, and then the cycle repeats. Well, I don't think that's meant to be a normative cycle in the Christian life. Romans 7 is common experience, but Romans 7 is not what we're called to. We're actually called to Romans 8. Well, on the other hand, moving away from the psychological application of this passage, what about the community of faith of which I'm part? If God raises up leaders in dire times, am I holding back? Does God need me to volunteer, to step up, to do something I've never done before? Or maybe I've done in the past, but am not doing anymore? We all have a part to play. Now, just a side note, when God does raise up leadership, this leadership will not be perfect, but it's leadership all the same. Deborah emerges as one of the best leaders in Judges, perhaps if only because her weaknesses don't seem to have been recorded. I'm sure she had some. We just don't read about them. So God raises up leaders in times of distress and repentance. Secondly, God cares about our pain, even when it's self-inflicted. It's easy to say, oh, I have compassion on this person. He's down on his luck. Things are not good. But how about compassion when someone is suffering because of his own sin? Most suffering that I go through is self-inflicted. Well, who inflicted it on me? I did. Most of it is self-inflicted. And sometimes we have a lot less compassion. Someone doesn't take our advice, and our advice happened to be right, and then that guy ends up in distress. The natural tendency is to hold our keep aloof or say, "I told you so." Well, maybe there needs to be a certain distance, and maybe we need to state the lesson in words. But what about the heart of compassion? Because in the book of Judges, even though the people are clearly at fault multiple times, God eventually gives in, just as he did back in the Exodus. The cry goes up to heaven. And so here's a great point about compassion. At any rate, God cares about our pain even when it's self-inflicted. And third, if it suits his purpose, he can use women just as well as men. We see this twice in our account with Deborah and with Jael. Probably it is overstating to conclude that when men don't or won't lead, then God raises up women. Though this may well be true, we aren't given enough information in the passage to prove that thesis. We do know from 2 Timothy 2:21 that though we serve in different ways, the purity of the vessel is even more important than the type of vessel. God looks at the heart. This is not to say anyone can be anything he or she wants to be, rather that how far we go has much to do with the moral condition of our heart. Let me just review those key lessons about God. Of course, we have suggestions for further study, the key verses, and the part for children. But what do we learn about God? 1, God raises up leaders in times of distress and repentance. 2, God cares about our pain even when it's self-inflicted. Amazing. And third, if it suits his purposes, he uses women just as well as men.